This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving?
Hey, Tom here with the 7th edition of the Henry's Child Podcast, and I am sitting here with my good friend, Toby Lugo.
What's going on?
And it's just us today. It's just the two T's of Henry's Child, Toby and Tommy.
Weird not to have Andrew here, I'm sure.
Well, you know, we're going to leave that up to the listeners. see if they can put up with the rhythm section for a little while.
They can do it.
So a little bit of really quick back history. Back in March of 2017, Doug Kramer quit the band. And when he quit, it really left us in quite a bit of a bind. We started putting around feelers, and really, moreover, what you do when you're our age is you go out and you talk to people. And you go, dude, do you know anybody that's available to play drums for a little band called Henry's Child? And some people look at you and they go, I have no idea. I've never heard of you before. And some people go, oh my goodness, that's kind of a big deal. So we were actually at Guitar Center in Salem, Oregon, which is where we practice. So we practiced in Salem, and we were at Guitar Center. We ran into a fellow named Bishop. And you're going to have to help me with his last name. Is it Freeman?
Bishop Freeman, that's the guy.
Bishop Freeman. Okay, so he plays in a band called Toxic Zombie.
Yes.
And Bishop kind of knew us a little bit back in the day, and he was a very, very cool guy. And he actually suggested, he said, you should call this guy. His name is Toby Lugo. He's a really good drummer, and he's got red hair, and he really likes metal. I think those were like the three things that he has red hair, he likes metal.
Those are two defining characteristics.
Yeah, definitely. And so we brought Toby in, and, you know, he just fit. I mean, he instantly fit. More like, obviously, musically, he could just handle anything because he's a really good drummer. But more importantly, the personality fit was really, really good.
Which is more important sometimes.
It really is, especially when dealing with older musicians like us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm getting older too, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
All of a sudden, Toby's the youngin', so...
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, maybe in 10 years, I can do the same thing and join.
Well, to be honest, most of the bands I've been in, I've usually been the younger person, so kind of used to it.
Good. Well, today we wanted to kind of take on a little bit of the Toby backstory.
Sure.
So maybe you can tell us, like, where you're from and what your musical background is. I know you've got a lot of degrees and things that tell me that you're cool, and
things on paper that tell you that I'm cool. So I grew up in Myrtle Creek, Oregon, very small town. It's about 20 minutes south of Roseburg, and went to high school at South Umpqua High, and I was playing in a grunge band, one of my very first bands ever. It was called Mortheo back in the day. We just listened to way too much grunge. And then I had another band that called Paranos that was, in my opinion, a lot better. I had more fun with. It was a lot more metal. And we started playing some Battle of the Bands. And Colt and Blake from Northwest Royale actually somehow heard of our band and came down to Myrtle Creek from Eugene and checked us out. And saw us, really liked us, and said, basically, you guys should move to Eugene because there's nothing going on in Myrtle Creek or Roseburg. And so the four of us talked to each other, and we decided, we would move up. And then I moved up to Eugene, where I found a band called Grinch back in the day, where they were looking for a drummer, kind of a similar vein as Henry's Child was. Mm-hmm. And I joined them, and we played for a good 5-6 years all around Eugene. And it was funny because I remember joining the scene. This was about 2005 is when I moved from Roseburg to Eugene, 2004, 2005. And the funny part was, as I was getting into the scene, I was just starting to understand who Floater was and other bands. I was told multiple times, you should have heard these older bands, specifically Henry's Child. I wish you could have seen them live. They were awesome. And I kept being like, well, I'm down to see them. Where are they at? And well, they broke up just a little while ago. Apparently, you guys had just stopped like a year before then or something.
Wow. Okay.
So I kept hearing that. But Grinch unfortunately disbanded. And I played in a handful of bands. I just wanted to be that guy who if you need a drummer, fill in for an album or a show or something like that. Throw up the bat signal with the nerdy glasses, and I show up with drumsticks ready.
Woohoo!
It was pretty fun to do for a while. But I had always written guitar parts, just in my own, just for fun. And I had my own like little album that I had recorded, because every band that I came up to with guitar riffs as the drummer, I'd be like, guys, check this out. And they'd be like, cool, get back on the drums.
It's like sacrilege.
Yeah.
You come up with drummers don't write guitar parts.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up having all these guitar riffs that I did nothing with. Just kept them in a studio. And the guy who ran the studio, Matthew Feltz, Central Node in Eugene, he ended up showing some friends of mine. He goes, look what Toby did, and gave him a copy of the CD, and they liked it. They liked it enough that they learned the parts. And so at separate times, I hung out with them, and they'd go, hey, check this out, and then start playing my song or playing one of my songs. And I'm like, whoa, that's awesome. And they go all different times, yeah, if you ever want to start a band, let me know. So it was like the easiest way to start a band ever. So that was We Have Guns, which ended up playing around Eugene for a good majority of time, another 5-6 years. We got a chance to play some incredible shows, including Hell Yeah at the McDonald Theater, Floater at McDonald Theater, Chimera, whole bunch of fun stuff.
I had heard of We Have Guns.
Nice.
When Rich and I were doing other projects. So after Andrew left, Rich and I, and for the most part Doug, honestly, we just never stopped playing. It was just in different incarnations, and it wasn't Henry's Child.
Nice.
So, not really being part of the scene necessarily, because by that time we were kind of spread all around the state.
Sure.
But I want to roll back to something really quick. You actually moved to Eugene for music, and you moved with your band? Is that true? Okay.
Actually, I moved with my band and then a girl at the time, and we all of us got apartments very close to each other in the same apartment complex, and we just decided that we were going to try and take over the quote unquote the Eugene scene. We would go down to Kesey Square, plug in on the little outlet they have there, and just play live shows. We'd call them guerrilla shows because we both had trucks, and so as soon as anybody complained, we'd hop in the truck as quick as possible, load all the gear, and run. So it was fun. But yeah, that was the whole idea, was just to move here for music and try and chase a dream.
And create your own Melrose Place there with everybody.
Exactly.
Everybody involved. So the girl wasn't in the band. She just came with you?
Yeah, she just came with me, was in a project, believed in me. Then we had our own separate fallout, and she's doing her own musical thing. I'm doing my thing now.
So she believed in you, or that was the name of her project?
No, that'd be a really crappy name for a project. But yeah, she actually did believe in me, but we had our own fallout, which happens, and I was a young kid. I didn't know as much as I do now. So,
there you go.
It happens,
go.
but it was definitely one of those things where I still want to go play music. I actually I had a year's scholarship for the U of O for computer programming that I completely ignored to go play music. I was like, no, I don't want to be a programmer. I would much rather go be a musician, and I'm actually a programmer right now, which is kind of ironic in a way.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, but yeah, that was the idea. Move up to Eugene and try and get some music. So
okay, so we're up to Grinch and We Have Guns.
Right. So We Have Guns ended up breaking up in a pretty sad fashion. I was, that was some of my best friends, and we just, butted heads, me and the singer Carl. A good friend of mine still. We actually ended up ending our friendship for a while. Luckily, we rekindled it, and we're good friends again now. But we also, both of us, worked at 101.5 K-Fly back in the day when it was actually a rock station and not whatever crap it is now. And so there was a lot of personal kind of dealings. We lived next to each other as well. And I ended up getting with a girl who basically was like, you know what, you shouldn't do music anymore. We should focus on us. And she hated Eugene and wanted to move to Portland, really wanted to move to Portland. And I wasn't really about it because I loved Eugene until the job that I work at right now. I work at a place called New Relic. I built a website for a recording studio, the same recording studio I did my demos with, Central Node.
And Central Node's in Eugene?
Central Node is in Eugene, run by Matthew Feltz, who has done, if you're a metalhead in the Eugene scene for the last 10 years, you've heard something that he's done. He's done a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Love that guy. And, but yeah, so I did a website for them, and New Relic saw the website, hit me up, and was basically like, hey, we want to give you more money to do less work. Is that cool? I went, okay. So I moved with my girl to Portland. I was actually planning on completely quitting music altogether. I was just, you know what? I've done my time. Grinch and We Have Guns did really well, and I should be proud for what we just did. And so I'm just going to focus on having a family and marrying her. And then 2 weeks before I was going to propose, she actually cheated on me. And so kind of, crushed me. I was with her for like 4.5 years. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was even kind of suicidal for a while.
Wow, that's hardcore.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. And then I realized, what I need to do is I need to go back to my original love, which was music. And so I started trying to find bands to play around with, jammed with a whole bunch of bands around here, jammed with Apophis Theory, DS8, Acadia, a couple of them. And that's actually how I ended up joining Toxic Zombie. I had been playing with DS8, and the bassist to Apophis Theory, his name's Deacon, great guy. He was contacted by the guys in Toxic Zombie, seeing if they knew a drummer, and Deacon,
they were in the Henry's Child position.
Yeah, they were literally in the Henry's Child position where they were basically like, yeah, well, I know this drummer named Toby. He's been filling in for Apophis Theory. He's pretty good. Maybe he could work out for you guys. And so I ended up not even specifically joining Toxic Zombie. I had for a good year and a half, told them like, look, I'm already playing in other bands, and I can't really commit to this time, but I'll fill in for you guys. They're playing bigger shows. They're playing like with Mushroom Head and Moto Grader.
Yeah, and this is Toxic Zombie.
Yeah, Toxic Zombie. Yeah. They're playing big shows, so I figured I would help them out. And the main reason was because I was in another band called Fallen Theory in Eugene, which I loved. And that was kind of what I was pushing for to be my main project. And
Fallen Theory was pretty big, though.
Yeah, Fallen Theory got pretty big, especially in Eugene and Medford area. We, got a chance to play really big shows, especially with like Sick Puppies and things like that. But unfortunately, there was drama that happened, as bands can sometimes have, and they ended up breaking up. And so I ended up joining Toxic Zombie full time. And then there was one day at practice where Bishop comes to practice and says, hey, there's another band that's actually looking for a drummer that I think that you would fit in well with. And he said the name Henry's Child, and I immediately recognized the name and was like, that was that band that back in Grinch days everybody kept saying, you need to go see. And ironically enough, I was actually there when you guys returned. That return show at the Wow Hall.
Right.
I was towards the front of the stage. I was on the right of the stage. But,
now, we did hear about this after the fact, and I thought this was so funny that you had known the guys and played some sort of temporary stints in Black Bell.
Yes.
And Black Bell actually played that original reunion show.
Yes.
Which I think back in podcast 5 or 6, we kind of tell the story with Greg and how it was originally going to be Mnemonic Machines, which was essentially, for all intent and purpose, was Henry's Child.
Sure.
Without Doug. And we were really scrambling at the last minute to sort of get the show together. And so you were actually at the original reunion show in 2014.
I was.
That is fascinating. So what were your thoughts about it then?
Well, at first I was just, very stoked. And honestly, I have a lot of friends that are in the scene that kept telling me, oh my God, you finally get to see who these guys are. My friend Kevin Richardson, he's the singer and guitarist in Vile Experiment. He was there with me saying like, oh my God, I can't wait for you to hear these songs like Headlights. And I can't wait for you to hear Human Being and Failure and Flicker and all these songs that I'm just like, okay, well, this is getting talked up to me, literally right next to me. I can't wait to see it. This is going to be awesome. And then you guys played, and you guys put on a hell of a performance. I was genuinely impressed.
Yeah, thanks.
And which is one of the big reasons why when Bishop came up to me and asked about filling in, I was like, yeah, this might be something that works out well. And that's when I started to try and build my chops up even more for a band that has been established, who was around even before Grinch days. Back in 2005, members of Grinch were saying, I can't wait for you to hear the band Henry's Child would play a CD for me. And then I'd be like, these guys are good. Like, where are they playing? And then it'd be that sad look of, they're not playing anymore, unfortunately. So,
yeah. Well, it's funny because Mumbles and Screams, which was kind of the first full-length CD, came out 10 years before that in 1995.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's really fascinating.
Yeah,
wow.
95, I had just started middle school. sixth grade.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna do that to me? Yeah. So roll it back even further back to Eugene.
Sure.
You told the story about Central Node.
Sure.
And how you had recorded some songs. Almost sounds like a Dave Grohl, like Foo Fighters kind of thing. Like, do you have this tape anywhere that these people would like learn these songs and kind of jam with you? Or?
I do still have the music. I've been thinking about building like a portfolio, like a multimedia portfolio site where people could download all of these old tracks from We Have Guns and Grinch and other projects that I've been in, including those, like I like to call it pre-Have Guns, like the little play on words there, because what had happened was I was recording drums with Grinch at the same studio. But I had just recorded these ideas, very raw in my own room with very limited technology, and I just showed them to the engineer Matthew, and he liked them so much that he actually said, "You know what? I will record you for free. We can do a whole album of just your music if you promise to play all the instruments." And I am classically trained, so I was like, yeah, man, I can play the guitar, drums, and the bass, and even did vocals embarrassingly on one or two songs. I don't want to really show those off too much.
Would you be willing to play either a Grinch or a We Have Guns song?
Sure.
That everybody would, just to kind of get a feel for what they are?
Absolutely. I would actually play a song from both. I could play one from each that is somewhat shorter, but is more of the staple of what the band was about. Grinch had a song that everybody loved called Toy Soldier. It was very much about the war in Iraq that was going on, because that was about, in the times of when that was written. And it was all about the ideas of every soldier being kind of a toy. And so much to the fact where, and I know Henry's Child has been in this position where when you perform and it's a specific lyric, you don't even have to sing it. The crowd sings it loud enough.
Right.
And that was, Toy Soldier. People would sing that to the beat. And would go, Toy Soldier, and play the music, but it would just be a cappella, and people would sing that. And it would be hilarious because drunken people would sing it off time, and you would hear them be very, very obvious that they were wrong in their beats.
It's even better. It's like a bad delay pedal.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. But
nice. Well, let's give Grinch Toy Soldier a spin and see how everybody likes it.
Sure.
Say it again. Toy Soldier.
Wow, man, that was intense.
Yeah, interesting topic too. So people got around that.
Yeah, totally. It's very polarizing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how did that feel when you guys came out with that song? I mean, like at live shows, was there a definite kind of division between people? Like this whole like, hey, we're proud of you for serving, or like, screw war kind of a thing?
I think that, with the way that our mentality was about writing that song and just in the politics of the time in general, it was actually little column A, a little column B. Like, we never wanted to disrespect the troops. And so we were very much about thank you very much for your service, but also that this just happens to be kind of a worthless fight.
Yeah, that also was before the Barack Obama administration.
Right. Yeah, this was about 2005, 2006.
Yeah, okay. So that was Grinch. The other band that you're proud of as well and played in for many, many years was We Have Guns.
Right. That was like my baby, where I had written all this music even before Grinch. And had, if you look at the album for We Have Guns, you'll see that I did like the mixing, the producing, most of the songwriting. There was only a couple songs I didn't write. I was very into that, and I was very nervous to bring that out as a project because I was afraid that honestly what happened would happen, that the band would break up after all that work I put out. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, but I'm still very proud of the album.
You were around for many years. I mean, half a decade's not a short amount of time.
Right.
How many albums you guys put out?
We only put out the one.
Really?
We have still to this day we still have another album of material that we just never released, never got a chance to put into an actual recording session. But who knows? Maybe one day. When nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, exactly. When it all becomes classic rock.
Exactly.
So, what song are we going to hear from We Have Guns?
So, We Have Guns. This is the one that was probably the most quote-unquote famous, and it is all about zombies, which is ironic because I play in a band called Toxic Zombie now. But it's called Dead Rising, and we used to do these things called bro chants. If you're a fan of punk rock, you'll understand what bro chants are. Yeah, it's where everybody chants something. And you can basically chant with the music as the crowd is concerned. And the lyrics were, it would go, save us from the fucking zombies. And everybody would go, zombie, to the beat. Save us from the fucking zombies, zombie. And so that's the one, like, people would come up to you guys are the zombie band, right? You guys are the one that's singing zombie.
Anything that's call and response.
Yeah, they love that.
For dead people is a good thing.
Oh, yeah. And we had like 3 or 4 songs that were like that, but this one probably was the one that got the most airplay.
Okay, so here we go. We have Guns with Dead Rising.
There is no
So they went back in the ground and they came out as Toxic Zombie.
I see what you did there.
One thing that I've been meaning to ask you about, that I've heard a little bit about, is that you play lots of instruments. How many instruments do you actually play?
Well, technically, if you go to school like I did and you learn the ideas of notes, I mean, there's only 12 notes and 11 notes technically in a scale. Once you start to learn the relationship between those notes, you can really technically play anything. You just got to get an idea as to how to handle said instrument. But I think the number right now is somewhere around like 13 or 14. So
you play 13 or 14 instruments?
Yeah, I play drums being my main forte. But one of the degrees I got was in acoustic flamenco guitar. And then I play...
They have a degree in flamenco guitar?
Well, it's music, but with a specialization in flamenco guitar, acoustic guitar.
Nice.
And then I play bass, and then I play piano, I play clarinet, violin, viola, cello, harmonica, a couple other ones. I used to play saxophone. I really want to buy one, tenor and alto. But yeah, any kind of instrument I can get my hands on, basically.
So you can blow, bang, and strum.
I can blow, bang, and strum.
Nice.
That's right.
Nice. Wow. Do you have a favorite instrument?
Drums. I mean, out of everything, it's the whole reason why I was only really guitarist in one band. Out of all these bands that I'm talking to and, or that I've jammed with, and the last one being 7 Second Circle, actually, that was the 34th band I've played in my entire life. Only one has been guitar. The rest of them have all been drums. That's
wow.
Because
okay.
I love drums so much. It's if you get good at guitar, and you get drunk on stage, you kind of still have to like look at your hand and figure out, make sure you're doing the right thing, right? But if you get drunk and you're playing drums, you can just close your eyes and swing as long as to the beat. Nobody's gonna know the difference.
Okay. Well, you let the secret out, my friend.
I mean,
beautiful. That's awesome. Well, speaking of drums.
Mm-hmm.
You played on this new Henry Child record.
Yes.
I think that we probably had, roughly over half the songs done and in the can.
Right.
Ready to roll. And we were adding a bunch of stuff that you played on sort of at the last minute.
Sure.
And I think we recorded, 13
yeah.
songs altogether.
Right.
And Toby went first, and I went second. And we've been done basically since July of 2017. That probably sounds about right.
I think you're right.
Moved on to Rich and then Andrew at this point. So what are your thoughts on the new record?
It was challenging. A lot of people will assume that, the more challenging music is going to be the really fast double bass, the blast beats and things like that, which I love to do. But if you think about music like that, it's pretty much the entire time. There's not as much dimension. There's not as much depth, if you will. And with Henry's Child, not only did I have to focus on doing the heavy elements with the softer elements, but I also had to focus on trying as hard as I could to keep the sound as Henry's Child. I listened to a lot of the older music to kind of get a feel as to what was what you guys were doing. So that way I wasn't going out of the realm of Henry's Child and wasn't so abrupt for maybe fans of the first two albums, while still trying to keep my own, that's Toby, playing drums.
Yeah, right.
It was difficult, and I had just broken up with a girl that I was very into right before we went into the studio, so the tracking of it was very emotional for me, and I think actually it ended up working in a positive way for the tracks. to where I could feel them a little bit better. Songs like End of You and, Be Still and things like that.
Right.
They resonated more with me.
Sure.
And so I'm very proud of this album. I'm very proud of the work that was done, and I cannot wait to be able to physically hold it in my hands and be like, it's done.
It's coming.
Here it is.
It's coming real soon.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's one of 3 albums that I'm going to be releasing in 2018. I've got this album, the new Toxic Zombie album, and the new Val Bauer album. But I would say out of all of 3 of the albums, the Henry's Child album is the one I'm most nervous about releasing because there's so much history there. And I'm really excited to play live. I just hope that the Henry's Child fans out there embrace, or at least like what I'm doing to add, and to be part of that team.
Yeah, cool. So speaking of live, do something I've never done before on a podcast. We have a very special show coming up.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about it with Toby, because Toby actually was our connection to the show.
Yes, absolutely.
Because years ago I had met Dave Wilson and been in contact with him kind of over the years. He put together a show that is a cancer benefit show.
Right.
And it's going to be in Lebanon. And why don't you tell us a few of these details about that, and then how many bands you're playing in?
Sure. So right now what they have scheduled is going to be a weekend. So it's actually not going to just be one night. It's going to be a 2-night show on March 23rd and 24th. Dave Wilson, good friend of mine. I've known that guy since Grinch days. He is putting on the benefits with about 20 bands total, 10 bands one night, 10 bands the other. Right now, I believe I'm scheduled to play in either 3 or 4 of the bands. I know that both Henry's Child and Toxic Zombie are going to play there. I'm going to be covering drums for good buddies of mine in the band Othris. I just played with Othris just last week. We played the very last Ash Street Saloon show, which is unfortunate because I loved the Ash Street. I felt
Ash Street was a cool club.
Yeah, I loved that place. I felt very honored to play the last show. Just bummed that it's yet another venue that's closing here in Portland. But I played with them, and their fans loved it. And I got a lot of compliments. I couldn't even leave. I was supposed to meet you guys over at the Floater show, just blocks away, and I couldn't leave the venue because people kept giving me drinks and kept saying, that's how Othra should have sounded, and, just kind of fluffing my balls, if you will. And I felt really good about it.
Wow.
But so I'm stoked to play with them again. Val Bauer, I believe, is going to play it as well. And so 4 bands that show.
Wow, cool.
But this is for a good friend of mine, Jason Rowe, who he used to play in music with Greg Gillespie. They were in a band called Strange Dichotomy for a good while, and then he played guitar and flute in the band 30 Pound Test, which was wonderful. I loved that band. And they're another band that it's unfortunate they broke up, but We Have Guns and 30 Pound Test used to play shows all the time.
Wow, cool.
So the fact that we get to benefit a good friend of ours, it's kind of an honor, and
that's great.
I'm looking forward to it. And plus, I believe this is going to be one of the first Henry's Child shows that I'll actually get a chance to play.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's coming up real soon.
Right.
So that's going to be March 23rd and 24th.
Right.
In Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the easiest way would be to send people to our website. So
yes.
You just go to henry'schild.com, because you can always reach out to us on Facebook as well. Yeah, and I think that's about it for today, Toby.
Sounds good.
Thanks for dropping by, my friend.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. I am stoked for the future. This is going to be fun.
How did we do without Andrew?
I think we did okay. I'm sure Andrew's cringed a couple of times, been like, I wish I were there. Since he was there the entirety of the recording process for everything.
Yeah, he still is.
So, but that's okay. I like that. Just means that I have a good barometer to find out when I'm doing something wrong. So I'm sure he'll find some things we did wrong, but that's okay.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. It came out my